Good afternoon, mech warriors, mech techs, and nobles in hiding. We're back, and my computer is shitting the bed. So guess who forgot they were streaming today? If you're guessing me, you're guessing correct. I was so in the trenches with the StratCon sector rewrite that I just completely forgot the time existed. And that I, in fact, had a stream to do. I was reminded by my housemate, hey, aren't you streaming? 5 minutes ago. Hello, everybody. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Knight, thank you so much for the subscription. Knight's been subscribing for 3 months now. Thank you. But yeah, no, I absolutely 100% completely forgot. Oh, hey, it's Monday. It got a stream today. So I haven't done any of my pre-stream checks. I haven't done anything. I haven't even decided what we're gonna do today. But I think I will start off with a bit of a show and tell. I'm gonna show you guys what I've been working on regarding the sector rework. I've got MekHQ already booted up, and so let's go into MekHQ and let's take a look. What have I done this weekend? Well, I actually hooked up with the local BattleTech community here in New State, and I'm very happy to discover it is actually a very active community in the city where I now live. So that's cool. I do have some bad news regarding BattleTech. So my BattleTech mini collection, I'm very sad to say it doesn't look like my BattleTech mini collection moved with us. So that's a thing. Radar says, my weekend was good. Spent all day yesterday hanging out with my brother, his fiance, and my boyfriend playing Power World. I hear the Power World 1.0 is good. Knight says, I got my little guy's school supplies. Always feels good to check off a box. Yeah. But yeah, no. King Miles says, damn jump ship mishaps. Yeah. So but it meant it does have there's a bit of a silver lining. Financially, there is no silver lining financially, but if you think about it, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to support the store I'm going to be going to and playing in by buying a whole bunch of minis. So I picked myself up a copy of the Game of Armored Combat, and I've ordered an Alpha Strike and Aces box set. So that's going to give me a decent number of goodies, and I'm planning to create myself a Fox Patrol force. So I'm looking forward to putting that together. I really like the Fox Patrol. If any of you guys haven't had the opportunity to read any of the Fox Patrol novels, they're available for like $6 each. There's only a couple, and you just spend $6, get yourself an e-reader. And yeah, no, Brian Young has done a fantastic job of giving us some really lovable characters in the Fox Patrol. And yeah, no, I highly recommend the Fox Patrol short stories and the couple of novels that have been put out. It's really nice to have a mercenary force that's fun to follow. I think I've said this before, almost certainly, but this is the first time I've been really enjoying following a faction's stories since like the Grey Death Legion days and Kettle's Hounds and Wolf's Dragoons and all that good stuff. So what have I been up to, and what am I about to show you guys? So I touched upon this during the show and tell on Friday. If you haven't already taken a look at the show and tell, it's the VOD is available on YouTube, and you should definitely check it out. It's like half an hour or so, beginning of one of our Scrotorious Bastards episodes. It's definitely worth watching. But one of the things I touched upon is that we're rewriting how StratCon generates sectors. Because I really wasn't happy with the current generation. It was very abstracted, and that's fine. When I say I'm not happy with something, I want to be very, very clear here. That does not mean it's a bad setup, okay? I am very firmly of the opinion that if you love something, you should be willing to criticize it, because that is the only way it's going to improve. And so I look at StratCon, and I love StratCon. Nick, the developer behind StratCon, has done an amazing thing. You compare StratCon to ATB, it's a 9-day difference, but I kind of feel like we're now reaching the point in MekHQ's life where we need to look not necessarily beyond StratCon, but look at how we can take StratCon to the next level. And one of the ways I want to do that is by trying to make the StratCon sectors more representative of the planets that they're on. But also at the same time, I want the sectors to create believable land masses. Because StratCon very much was just this square or rectangle or whatever blob of not entirely but mostly randomly generated hexes. Again, not entirely but mostly. And there were a lot of planetary features that we just straight up weren't taking advantage of. And so we're going to go ahead and have a look at Coruscant, the planet. And we can see the planet's got 500 million people. It's got 35% surface water and a 33% temperature in the equator. We can see its atmospheric pressure high, but it's got a breathable atmosphere. And it's also got a little bit higher than Earth gravity. So let's teleport ourselves over to Coruscant. So we're going to accept this. Oh, no, accept, damn it. Understand. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. I've said this before, but as part of the contract rewrite, I am absolutely getting rid of the ticking exercise that comes with accepting a contract. It's very tedious. So we're waiting for this to cycle on through. And then we're going to have a look at the sector and some of the new tools that have been created to aid not just players in telling their own personal narrative, but also GMs. Yeah, go. Nobody cares. Clan Wolf, piss off. So let's go over to the area of operations. And first of all, this is something that is not likely to stay, but area of operations aren't always square anymore. I'm actually probably going to take that away, maybe. To be determined. But let's pop ourselves into GM mode, because this is going to give us a bunch of extra tools. So first of all, we can have a look. We can see in the latitude, we're in the North Tropical region. We've got an average temperature of 23 degrees Celsius. The hydrology, and that's kind of like the profile used to create the sector, is coastal. The terrain is shield cratered, which means it's going to have some shield mountains. And it's going to have one settlement. It's a primate city, and a primate city doesn't mean we're on Planet of the Apes. It means that it's one large city. So in this example, I can see on the map already we only have one city, but if we had lots of cities, they would all be clustered together. So let's have a look at my GM tools that I've just activated by turning GM mode on. Oh, actually, before I do that, how about we have a look at the glow up? So as you've noticed at the top, we now have tabs for our sectors. So we have Sector Alpha, for example. On the right-hand side, we're seeing a lot of new details. So you've got your victory points, your support points, your deployment time, and your threat level. So what threat level means is that that's your percentage chance of generating a scenario anytime you deploy. And previously, this information was hidden behind the change SP/CVP button that was here. So now we're making this information public. You do not need to be a GM to see the threat level. This can be representative of your strategic staff advising you, as well as Allied Command advising you of how active the enemy is in the sector. But I said I was going to show you some GM stuff. So let's turn on GM mode. Boop. And we've got a whole bunch of new GM options. You can edit your support points. Nice and easy. Let's give ourselves 5. Very nice. You can edit your campaign victory points. Let's give ourselves 3. Pachow. And you can see that the UI is updating as soon as we edit it. We can toggle ourselves some hidden objects. Oh, it's taking your time. There we go. Not entirely sure why it's disabled. That's a bug. Oh, there we go. Nah, it's just taking its time. So you can toggle the hidden objects, just like this was what you would get if you right-clicked and went reveal stuff. But now it's just toggle hidden objects. There we go. You can also resize the sector. So I'm like, okay, well, this sector's it's nice, but I actually want to make it a little bit wider. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit wider. There we go. I could make it smaller, but I'm going to make it wider. You can also scout the sector. Now, this option, I'm gonna be honest here. This option was added only so that I could make pretty screenshots. Knight says, and maybe later those numbers could be deceptive with bad scouts and employer information. Maybe. Right now, it's always truthful. We need to be careful about lying to the player because sometimes we need information to always be trusted. So yeah, so Scout Sector is just there to enable me to take pretty screenshots. But maybe you as a GM or a player have a narrative where you're like, okay, well, I'm hacking the planet, and I now have perfect satellite access to everything. But you'll notice when you scout, when you scout, it's also going to spawn scenarios because it is just a true scout. Now, I will probably change that because that's a bit off. Radar says an advanced option to have deceptive numbers be a thing. Maybe these are things that would need to be considered. You can also here's something that I think you guys would really like. You can change the terrain. So maybe I don't want this to be ocean. Maybe I actually want this to be a glacier. And I can drag this. There we go. I now have a iceberg in the middle of the ocean. You can also change to be a little bit bigger as well. So let's change this into a snowfield. Ciao. Make it super huge. Ciao. There you go. We can also do things like adding cities. So how about I say, okay, well, actually, I have a city that's here. And you'll notice how immediately the road network updates to incorporate the city. What if I added a facility? Now we're attacking an enemy planet, so it's the enemy control the planet. So I can add a facility here. It's going to take a little bit. There we go. And the road network updates. It's now updated to account for the city. If I were to add in a snowfield over here, let's add a allied facility. You notice the road network doesn't update. And the reason why the road network isn't updating is because our employer, if we go over to here, the Free Worlds League doesn't have a planetary presence. So the only facilities connected to the road network are ones that spawn at the start of the contract or that you manually add that are owned by a planetary owner. So right now, Clan Wolf owns this planet, so their facilities will always be added to the road network. But the Free Worlds League doesn't have a presence on this planet, so any facilities we add will not be added to the road network. So if we were to pretend that we can't see these facilities, and let's just remove these scenarios just to kind of clear the field a little bit. There we go. So I'm looking at this and I can see that we've got a road network that's connecting to something hidden here. So I, as a player, can now intuit and go, okay, there's a road network there. There must be something there. I, as a player, don't know that there's a hostile artillery base. But if I'm doing scenarios and I notice I'm getting hit by a hostile artillery base, I can then go, okay, well, maybe the hostile artillery base is living there. And that's going to help inform player scouting. So you're no longer doing that whole thing that we all do where you go, I'm just going to deploy here, and then I'll deploy here, then deploy here, and just wander your way about the map. Now you can go, okay, well, I know there's a facility probably there, so let's scout the facility by deploying here or wherever. My patrol will then scout that hex, and I'll have a good chance of finding out what the facility is. Ocean hexes, as you can see, are always scouted. Nothing will ever spawn in an ocean, so there won't be any scenarios in the ocean, there won't be any facilities in the ocean, there certainly won't be any cities in the ocean. But something we've changed that you'll start to see later is these cities. You notice how if I hit the sector fog, you can still see the city. But I can add a city anywhere. So I can go down here to this lava field and I can go add city. And now there is a city in the middle of the volcano. So cities can now spawn anywhere, and when you generate a scenario, it is going to generate the scenario based on the territory that's on. So if I generate a scenario on this roadway just here, I can guarantee, unless it becomes a fixed map, so a player-made map, it will always have a road on it. If I generate a scenario in the middle of the city, it's in a volcano, so we're going to get a city in a volcano. And it's going to have a road as well, because it's got a road there. All cities have roads. Farmland is a new one you haven't seen before. Farmland also always has a road. So we've got this poor farmland all the way over here in the other side of the mountains that's going to maybe got a tunnel or something going through the mountains. But how about we just say, okay, well, this is all well and nice, Illiani, but I actually don't like this this sector. It's a bit shit. I played around too much with the terrain painter, and now it just looks a bit cack. And I can go, okay, that's fine, we can fix that. So I just go down to reset sector fog. No, sorry, regenerate sector. Pachow. And now I have a brand new sector. And you can see up here, we're now in the equatorial latitude. We've got an average temperature of 34 degrees Celsius, which if we go over to navigation, we can see that 33 is the equatorial temperature of the location we're in. I can see that we now have a coastal hydrology. Again, it's shield created. Terrain and hydrology are very based on the actual planet. And it's got 2 settlements, and these are coastal ports. So we've got 1 settlement up here, and we've got 1 settlement down here. And they're coastal ports, which means they're going to spawn next to water. Now, I can hit this as many times as I want. So now we have a plateau in the Lakelands, in the North Tropical region. 2 settlements, but they're dispersed, so they're going to be separated a little bit. Not super dispersed, but they are. And these are cities in the savannah. And I can do this as many times as I want. Thank you so much, Youngster, for 3 months subscription. And I agree, 3 months already. I hadn't actually realized it had been that long. Now, one thing I'm noticing just with regenerating it, these roads are a little bit hard to read. That's something I can look into. But you can also see, as I'm regenerating, the objectives that this hidden artillery base is also relocating as well, so you're not losing it. And yeah, as I say, I can regenerate this as much as I want until I get one that I like. And the terrain that you're seeing here is based entirely on the planet that you're on. So different planets are going to give you different terrain. And I'm just super proud of this, if I'm being honest. Oh, here we are in the South Tropical, and you've got yourself some jungle, and then you've got yourself some forest. Oh, beg your pardon, this is jungle and this is forest. Not sure I agree with that. That seems like it's reversed, but okay. I think at one point I'm probably going to put some money together myself and commission some Stratcon art, some new Stratcon art that kind of better represents this. But yeah, so this is just going to give us so much more variety. But this sector that we're generating here, this is a sector for one company. So now the size of the sector you get, there is, hey Weissman, glad you could join us. There is a lot of math involved, and I mean a lot of math. And I had to learn words like hydrology and orology. Orology is the study of tectonic plates and mountains and stuff. It was a whole thing. This has taken me like an entire week just to do, because I've been doing so much research on algorithms and map generation. And then while I'm talking, I'm just going to be hitting regenerate so you guys can see some of the variety. Now, this is all just variety for one planet. So if we go somewhere else, in fact, let's go do that now. Let's say, fuck you, planet, you suck. Let's try and find somewhere a bit better. I'm still a GM. So I'm looking for a pirate world. Just give me a pirate world. Are you pirates? No. Come on, give me pirates. Okay. Come on. Pirates? Are there no pirates left in this galaxy? I'm just going to spam a whole bunch and see if we can... Oh, I think I saw a pirate. There we go. You're a pirate. So then we're now going to go to New Prana, which has... doesn't look like it has... No, it has a population of 0. It is breathable, though, with equatorial temperature of 28% Celsius and 76% surface water. So let's head over there. Actually, let's see if we can get a bit more of an interesting one. Peck. Tainted poisonous. Okay, this is actually going to be a good one. So the atmosphere for this planet is tainted poisonous. Now, if I remember correctly, I actually factor that in on planetary generation. So if we go to Peck, now this is actually utilizing another system. So now how we pick contract enemies, locations, and an employer have now been completely rewritten. So it's using a whole bunch of systems. Previously, you would never have gotten a contract on Peck. But now, when you get a pirate hunting contract, you're going to get shitty planets where pirates hide. If I head over to navigation, you can see that Peck is actually an uninhabited world. It's one of the empty systems. And that's the kind of place where pirates will hide. They also really like hiding near the border, and this is exactly that. It's got the Regulan Vice, the Free Worlds League, or whatever who these guys are. Free Worlds League, yeah. This is a nice border world, so there's plenty of place for pirates to raid. So let's go ahead and have a look at our area of operation. And you can see there is no woodlands. This is a road because we're instantly getting a very, very different planetary makeup. Here we're heading into the South Polar region. South Tropical. Steak the Dog says this planet sucks ass. It does, but this is the kind of place where pirates would hide. And so we want to make sure we get environments that match that. And the size of the planet also impacts what you're getting as well, because we actually calculate the entire surface area of the planet. So when we're determining what latitude you're in, it's going to vary based on the planet size. So if you have a very small planet, we focus around the equator, but if you have a very small planet, you're more likely to get into one of the polar regions. As I say, these different sized sectors, I'm not sure I'm going to keep that. I might have some sector size variety, but maybe not sector shape. I think sector shape is a little bit So this is an example of a riverlands. So the sector is built up entirely around a river. Oh, I don't like this one. This is marshland. So this is all like, you can see down here we've got steppe. And we've got tundra, Arctic desert, frozen sea. But I'd like to think that what I'm getting across is that we are presenting you with a very, very different world. Now, what I'm going to try and do, and I don't know if this works, I am going to try and find us a world with no atmosphere and see if I can give you an example of what happens if you are in the shittiest world imaginable. So if anybody knows of a system that does not have a breathable atmosphere, like it has no atmosphere, please post it in chat, because it's going to take a while to find. Maybe I should add an atmosphere measure. Oh, actually, thin atmosphere might work. Let's teleport over to Mohax and see if I can kind of try and force a contract in Mohax. Because a lot of this is future-proofing as well. So if we go to briefing room, let's add a mission. Let's add a new contract. Don't really care about that. Location. Mohawks, there we go. Start date, let's make this start today. So January, February, March. April. We want March. There we go. And I want a pirate. Pirate hunting. Give me Mohawks. Not helpful. Fine, garrison. Oh, because it's got the employers pirates. Okay, then we want to go against pirates. Now give me Mohawks. There we go. Knight says Sirius 5 was the planet with the biodomes that were blown to framed grey death. We can have a look at that. That might be a next one. Dark Strider, thank you so much for the subscription. We got 3 subscriptions today. That's amazing. Ah, damn it. Okay, so this won't give us what we want because we can't manually create a... Oh, it doesn't look like it started, that's why. January, February, March, April. Oh, because it doesn't start until April? Come on, computer. I thought I changed those dates, but I guess it just ignored them. One of the things I'm really looking forward to with the contract overhaul project is just rewriting all this nonsense. Damn it, this isn't... Because what I'm trying to do is show you the lunar setup. This isn't lunary enough. Let's have a look at Solaris 4, 5 even. Let's get rid of you. So we want Sirius. It's still got an A atmosphere. I will need to. I'll probably need to look into this and get this set up properly. Oh, it's got redburn virus. Maybe we have a look at Sirius 5 we're specifically looking at. It looks like that. Two, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so let us. I'm the GM. I should be able to travel to Lose Planet. Oh, because I don't think I'm there. Okay, so that means I'm there. Let's go to Lose Planet. Whatever. Can I specify the exact planet? Show all planets. What is the name of the planet? Liu's planet. It's only showing systems. Okay, that's something we'll need to look into. But for now, we'll just have to deal with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our campaign a little bit bigger. So what I've been showing you is a company level sector. So now I'm going to go ahead and make my company a little bit bigger. So we're now going to add ourselves a second company. Don't care, go away. So what I'm showing you now is you've increased your campaign. You're now up to 2 companies. Oh, now you want to give us a pirate contract. Fine. Okay, how long to get there? 76 days. Okay. So the algorithm we're now taking when it comes to sector size. So sector size previously was based on unit count, but there was some vagaries. Now how it's going to work is that you can expect 1 sector per battalion. But the size of that individual sector is going to vary based on the forces at your command. We assume 1 recon force per 3 combat teams. So a company is assumed to have 1 dedicated recon force. A battalion is expected to have 3. Now, obviously, factional variances vary. If you're working in Comstar level 2s, you're going to have a harder time than if you are in Innisphere Lancers. But that's kind of one of the issues with the Comstar organization system. So we're not planning to smooth that out. What it does mean, though, is if you have let me step back. So the size of the sector is based roughly on how big a sector you can feasibly recon in 3 months. So this is now planetary size does factor in, but this is roughly what you can expect to recon in 3 months with two recon teams. I'd say that's quite able. We assume when it comes to working out how much a recon team can recon, we are balancing around each recon formation, scanning 3 hexes a week. So if you have better pilots or a higher tempo, you're going to be able to recon the sector a lot quicker than if you have terrible pilots or a slower tempo. But the balancing is 1 recon force per company, and the sector is sized so that you can recon 1 sector every 3 months. Knight asks, is it based on 36 mechs or 9 lances? If I mark the regiment as always combat team, will I get 3 sectors? Yes. So it is based on combat teams, not on... Well, actually, no, it is based on combat elements. You're right, yeah. No, I'm thinking aloud here. So yeah, it is based on the units, not the TOW organization. I was confusing myself because it used to be worked based on combat teams, but it's not anymore because PsychoMonkey changed that last year or earlier in this year. It got changed. But yeah, so if you mark a regiment as always a combat team, you are going to get 3 sectors, yes. While we do try to give players the freedom to organize their TOWs as they see fit, we are balancing around and designing around lance level engagements, because that is what we're moving towards with persistent movement that is being investigated as we speak, and with persistent op4s again being investigated as we speak. The default is that you are looking at lance level engagements. However, if you want to have your regiment as a combat team, but then have the recon part of that separated out, that would work as well. But yeah, so when you start getting to formation sizes that are just not being designed for, you are going to hit some friction, but that is just something that you will need to be able to work out yourself. Knight says that I will no longer be able to manipulate the system to reduce sectors. Yeah, but that's kind of intentional. What you can do though, because I want to make sure that the players are the ones in control here. So if I go down to campaign options and I head down to GM, I just checked did I add the option. Here we go. So we have a few new options have been added. First of all, it's the enable alternate sector count. And that basically means, do you want to use the current sector count, or do you want to use the new one that is 1 sector per I do need to reword that, but per battalion. We also have condensed sector count. So how this is going to work is if basically, because we've moved over to tabbed sectors rather than the list of sectors, we create a problem where if you're trying to deploy an entire army group to a single StratCon contract, it's going to create you infinite tabs and you're not going to be able to use the game. So what we've gone ahead and done is we've added the option to condense sector count. So how that works is sectors 1 to 10 will generate normally. However, if you have more than 10 sectors needed, we're going to go back and I'm going to make the previous sectors bigger. So if you have 11 battalions, you're going to have 10 slightly bigger than normal sectors. If you have 20 battalions, you can have 10 sectors that are bigger by a magnitude. And that means that even if you have a freaking huge campaign and you're all dumping it into the one contract, which you will not need to do, hopefully by the time 51.1 launches, if not 51.2. If you do that, you are still going to have a manageable campaign experience. We've also got the advanced terrain generation. Basically, whether you want to use the legacy system, which is largely random, or whether you want to use the new one. Just give you options so that you can tailor your experience. But the reason why I've come to campaign options is I want to show you the sector size multiplier. So this is just a straight multiplier. If you want sectors that are half as big as normal, you can just put 0.5 in here. If you want sectors that are twice as big as normal, you just slip in 2. So there isn't a need to manipulate the sector size if you want to have smaller sectors. You could just come in and set the campaign option. Knight says, I have been marking my regiments as combat units to get less sectors, then splitting them up into companies when we land. I personally don't like flipping through multiple sectors. I'm a big fan of bigger sectors over more sectors. So this is something that I'm looking into. I can't promise anything yet. I am looking into the option for just to have one big sector rather than 1 to 10 smaller sectors. The only reason that hasn't been implemented yet is because I need to gauge how the experience actually plays out. Because one big sector sounds like it would work without too much trouble. We got the ability to zoom now, zooming. We got the ability to pan, zoom in, pan, wrong button, pan. So we've got all these abilities available to us, but here's a question for you. If you were using one big sector and you got a sector in the polar extremes, would you want the entire contract to be on a frozen hellscape? Just because RNG said, hey, this contract is in the polar extremes. The benefit of the multiple sectors is that you get a more representative experience for the planet. Now, is that a problem? I don't actually know. I genuinely don't. It's something that I'm thinking about, and I definitely know how we could do it. It's just that I wanna make sure that no matter what option you're using, you're getting a fun experience. But if Knight isn't the first person to bring up the possibility for one big sector, so honestly, given that multiple people have asked for it, I do think it is a perfectly reasonable ask. I really do. So maybe it's something that I will add. Forkstar says, as long as it's a campaign option, then those of us who like the idea could use the GM regen sector option if we don't like it. That's also true. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Seeker 10,000 says, especially with the trap map movement. Yeah, so with the ability to have persistent movement, which will not be coming in 51.1, I don't believe. Radar says they would like one big sector. Wildfire says some contracts can suck, so a good storytelling prompt. Yeah. Okay, no, sorry, I'm seeing that, my concern. Thank you for the 100 bits, Knight, but I'm seeing that my concern really is unfounded. So yeah, okay, you guys have convinced me. I probably won't make it the default. I say I probably won't. I definitely won't make it the default. But maybe I can add it in as something that you guys can turn on and have your one big sector. no, I do think, based on what you guys are saying, what I will need to do is, right now, this is the maximum you can zoom out. This is the maximum you can zoom out. So what I probably need to do, which I probably need to do anyway, is just increase the maximum zoom so you can have a better strategic snapshot. But yeah, no, you guys are clearly, you guys are clearly like interested in the idea, so it's something we can look into. King Miles says slider for condensed sectors option, maybe. Like how I present the options to you guys is like the easiest part of this. The real question comes down to, like, do I think it is going to give a good experience? Because as a games designer, one of my responsibilities is to make sure that I am giving a fun experience to the player. And that sometimes means protecting players from themselves. The example of you think you do, but you don't, from Blizzard years ago, it is actually a very representative thing within games design. Plenty of times players will come to me and say, or come to games designers and say, hey, I want this thing. But the thing that they are asking for, they think they want it, but it will actively have a detrimental impact on their play experience. And so when we are asked things as games designers, we have to sit back and go, okay, well, the players want this. And we understand that the players want this, and we can see why the players want this. But are players wanting the thing they're asking for, or is there something else at play here? So for the jumping between sectors thing, as an example, because so here's the thing, right? Nobody liked having the multiple sectors because they were so easy to lose. So the question I have to ask myself is, are players wanting one big map because they want the experience of one big map? Or are players asking for one big map because they keep losing their sectors? And if it is that they keep losing their sectors, then the fact that we now have tab sectors at the top here, which is much more obvious, should prevent that. Raina says, my big reason I want one sector is to keep their attractive scenarios, units, etc. Seeker says, like tracking vitamin intakes in a survival game, yeah. Fox Tower says, if the GM regen wasn't there, then it'd be more of a problem, but MekHQ has always been something where occasionally flipping the GM mode to make things more to your taste has been an embraced thing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why so when I first joined the team, I didn't really get this. So I am a games developer, I'm a games designer, however you want to word it. My job is I develop experiences. And so when I first joined the team, I was very much of the mind that I am the creator of the experience, and I will present to you the experience you're going to have. And I approached MekHQ as a video game. And that was 100% the wrong way to do it. 100% the wrong way. And it caused so much friction between me and the player base, because I was saying, okay, I'm going to craft you an experience, and it is going to be a whole experience that you will enjoy. Or more accurate, I will think you will enjoy. And I believe that the experience I'm crafting is going to give you a better time than the experience you were having previously. And I do stand by the majority of the changes that I've made in my time with the project. I do think they have largely moved the game in a positive direction. However, the way I was going about it was completely wrong, because MekHQ, it is not a game. It is real life. I'm being facetious, of course, but it's not a game. And this was the lesson I failed to learn before my hiatus. Now, when I went on sabbatical for about 6 months, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research. I really tried to expand my horizons as a games developer. And one of the things I came to the conclusion of is that MekHQ, it is not a game in the traditional sense. It is not you're sitting down and you're playing a curated experience. It's not even an open world experience or an open-ended experience like Stellaris. I love Stellaris, but it's not even that kind of experience where you, the player, are navigating the world however you see fit, but the game is still generally a curated experience. No, MekHQ it's a story generator. The MekHQ is at its best when it enables storytelling. I keep punching my mic, I do apologize. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are crafting experiences that are giving the players the tools they need to tell the story that they want to tell. And there will be players who want to play within the confines of the digital GM's world. And that is good and that is just. But the player needs to be the one that says, hey, actually, I don't like the direction this is going. I'm going to change it in another direction, because that fuels the personal narrative that the player is writing with the help of MekHQ. And I think this was a very, very important lesson for me to learn. And I saw Seeker 10,000 pop up in chat saying, "I am God and you will do what I say." That was never the approach. It was a flawed approach. It was the flawed approach of, I am an experienced games designer and I have identified problems in the experience that I will fix. That was an equally flawed approach. Oh, Seeker 10,000 clarifies that they're joking. Oh, I know you're joking, but it is very much an astute joke, because the flawed mentality I had was that I knew how to tell a better story than the player. And that was such a mistake. And that's why you kind of see in the systems that I've implemented after coming back from hiatus, and how I'm going about them are very, very different to how I was going about them prior to my hiatus. And that's largely why. Why am I blathering on? As always, we've started with one topic and we've meandered elsewhere. But the long and short of it is, I definitely understand that players want a large sector. What I need to identify as a developer is, do players want the large sectors to solve a problem? And if so, is there a better way to solve that problem? One of the issues with a large sector is, let's give ourselves a big sector. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make ourselves a 20 by 20 sector. We're using the resize sector option. Pachow. Now, the thing with the resize sector, as you can see here, it has a lot of fallback values and essentially just replicates terrain. The resize sector is intended to be used with the terrain painter. So the whole point of the resize sector, it's there so that you can make slight adjustments to adjust your experience. So a GM like Joker or Fluffy could create a StratCon campaign, size the sectors how they want, and then paint the entire sector, and then give their players a wholly curated experience where even the sector itself has been made by the GM. But say we've got this big sector, and we're going to go ahead and add a big sector's worth of stuff. Let me just count the sector. There we go. So we're adding a big sector's worth of stuff, and then I will explain what I'm doing in a bit. Viceman says Saber would love that. You know, Saber is okay. So you can tell Saber from me. The resize and sector painter was literally made with him in mind. I think Saber's pronouns are he, him. But yeah, no, that whole system was literally made with Saber's custom contracts in mind. And yeah, no, you can tell him that. Weissman says he's the primary writer for Joker's campaigns. Yeah, no, I know. And then yeah, so yeah, I was like, okay, well, I because the thing is, I watch Joker's campaigns, and I don't get to watch them as much as I used to, just because I am so busy nowadays with the projects we're doing. But yeah, no, I wanted to kind of give some tools for you guys. The youngster says, I've been feeling recently that there might be some space for a little more curated games, just in the sense of providing start point and end point. I agree. And this is something that I'm looking into, but I need more systems in place. But yeah, I do try to create some systems that I think that the big live stream players would enjoy. Single drop is an example of that. Now, I do not actually think single drop StratCon single drop. I actually don't think StratCon single drop was successful. I actually think that was a very bad solution for a problem that I was trying to solve. I don't even know if anybody still uses StratCon single drop. I think it is a very flawed execution, and I might take another look at how to solve that, but I'm not going to solve it today. So what you've seen is I've just gone ahead and plumped a whole bunch of facilities down per chow. However, if you imagine that you have spawned in, and this is your one big map. PSV59 says, what's the single drop thing? So single drop, there's a couple of different ways you can play StratCon. There is normal StratCon, like you're looking at now. There is mapless, which is like the old ATB, where you don't have a StratCon map at all. And then there's single drop. And how single drop worked is it's basically mapless, except every week you will only get one scenario, but every week you will get a scenario. And the idea is that each week the streamer will mark all the players that are present for that week in the toe, and then hit advanced day until the scenario spawns, and then the scenario that spawns will be perfectly balanced for the people who are present for that week. So if in one week you've got 3 players, you're going to get a scenario suited for 3 players. If the next week you have 8 players, you're going to get a scenario suited for 8 players. And that was to solve a problem that I noticed where streamers were quite often having to regenerate scenarios to account for their millions of players. However, the problem is that once you get to a certain power level, as a lot of these streams often do, where players are running around with a bazillion edge, perfect SPAs, mechs that are custom with no flaws, the amount of stuff that MekHQ has to generate to challenge that group of players just results in these incredibly huge games that are just a fucking slog to get through. And so single drop, in my opinion, does not create fun experiences, and as a result, and it requires a lot of hand holding from the GM to set the streamer to set up at the beginning of each week. And I just generally think that was a good goal to make the experience better for streamers, but I don't think it was successful. I think single drop was incredibly flawed, and it is something I have genuinely toyed with the possibility of putting a vote out to remove it entirely. But back to what we're discussing. So say you only have one big sector. Well, already I can't see the whole of the sector, but that's not a huge issue because I can change the zooming out. But imagine this is your sector. If I deploy here in this little hex here, and I get a scenario, every single one of these close to 10 facilities can modify that scenario, and instantly what was once a lance versus lance engagement can suddenly balloon into regiment versus regiment, and that is every scenario. Now, I am planning to do some steps to mitigate it. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm going to be adding zones of control. So an individual facility can only influence within 2 hexes of it. Focus Arrows is just pointing that out now, yes. So, but that still creates a problem, because one of the things I want is if we have a cluster of facilities, so we add a facility here. Apparently there was already a facility there. So because this facility and this facility and this facility, their zones of control all overlap, they create a network. Oh, this facility as well. So this is a network of 4 facilities, and that means that any scenario that spawns in the area of influence of these 4 facilities combined can get MekHQ, and Com Center all influencing them. King Mal says, I thought you already put a limit in 51.0 so that only one facility. Oh my god, I am so fucking stupid. I've already fixed this fucking problem. I cannot be trusted. I cannot be fucking trusted. Oh my fucking god. I am so crap at this. Yes, let me talk about games design philosophy and let's talk about how we have to factor in so many different elements to accommodate the player and to ensure a fun experience. And then we're going to forget that we actually already fixed the problem. Fox Dara says, past Illiani fixing the problems of current Illiani before knowing it was even needed. Yeah, okay. Well, on that point, then yes, I will definitely add the ability to have one big map. Oh my fucking god. I am so crap at this. But yeah, so that's the new change to the Stratcon. I mean, also, like some of you might have noticed down here, if I click on a scenario, it's going to tell you all the details down here instead of here. Because we'll get this white space at the bottom right here. We're going to be using that for other fun stuff. So what I wanted to do is just take up the fact, because most Stratcon sectors, you have this big empty space. So I'm just adding in these so that we're utilizing that space. And also it looks cool, in my opinion. But yeah, get all the details for your facilities, the individual hexes. Oh, here's a cool thing. And I think it's cool, personally. Let's regenerate a sector so I can get a good example. Oh, interesting. The sector's regenerating big. Okay, here's a good example. So if I go here to the desert, you'll see that it's 46 degrees Celsius. The average temperature for this sector is 38. If I go over here to hot and dry, it's 46. 32, the ocean, 46. Yeah, it's all good. But if I go to the lava, you'll notice it popping up to 63 degrees Celsius. So previously, how it used to work is we would actually I wonder if I change terrain to a glacier. Boop. Yeah, it lowers the temperature. Cool. So what I have done previously, the average temperature of the sector was universal across all hexes. So if you had somehow a glacier and a desert in the same hex, they would all have the same temperature, 38 degrees Celsius in this example. I'm not entirely sure how a glacier could be at 38 degrees Celsius, 38 degrees above freezing, melting point, but hey ho, whatever. Now, if you look at the average temperature down here, you can see that individual hex types have their own temperature. So the glacier is 30, the lava is 63. And this is going to mean that because one of the things I really wanted was to make sure that when you get a scenario spawning, the type of scenario you get is going to vary based on the terrain. So let's actually give an example of that. So I'm going to kill this contract. Actually, we're going to kill the entire campaign. And no, we're not. I'm going to do one last show thing here. I'm going to delete this contract. Go away contract. I'm going to give us even more troops. So now we're going to be a battalion. And what I'm going to show you here is, I don't want to say the largest a sector can generate, because that is not strictly true. Because planetary size influences sector size. And also so does water. So when we are determining the sector size, we are not just taking into account the number of forces under your control. We're taking into account the size of the planets. So bigger planets are going to have bigger sectors. Smaller planets will have smaller sectors. But we're also going to be factoring in the amount of water. So when I said earlier that a sector should be reasonably scoutable within 3 months, give or take, we're only counting dry land. Seeker 10,000 says, would it be possible to have an option to change the number of facilities that can affect a single scenario? Yeah, we can. Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. We can do that. Yeah. Might even do that today, actually. Gives me something to do. But yeah, so when we are... Sorry, that went very loud. I do apologize to anybody's ears I just blew out. But when we are generating the sector, we're only looking at dry ground. So if you have a sector like this... Here we go. This is a good example, actually. Where the majority of the sector is wet. It's ocean. And as I mentioned before, scenarios and facilities cannot spawn in ocean. But we have this ocean here. So when we're determining the size of the sector, we're only counting the dry ground. But here's another example of what I was talking about earlier. Let's just don't want to regenerate. Let's reset. So I'm resetting because it makes it easier. You can see how all these cities have generated together. So this is actually just one big city, and it's a primate city. So we've got 9 settlements, but it's one big mega city. Hey, Psychotic, glad you could join us. So this is what's giving us our variety. So even down to the layout of the cities, it's varying from sector, and the likelihood that you're going to get a primate city is also based on the population of the planet. So we go to Ningpo, and we can see that it has 1.4 billion people. Psychotic says New York or London. New York's a better example, but yeah, exactly. So this is 1.4 billion people. So the likelihood that it's going to have major city environments is higher than a settlement a planet only has like 250 million. And so the population significantly impacts how many cities you get and what kinds of cities there are. So let's just clear the fog, pachow. And yeah, so this is what you can. Oh, Psychic says, I mean, doesn't London have like 3 other cities it devoured? Yes. Okay, now I understand what you mean. I beg your pardon. But yeah, so if I scout the map, and again, I see already that the roads need to have their color changed. That is not super clear. But if we scout the map, you can see that there's still a decent amount of terrain to scout. Probably more terrain than is standard Stracon map from 51.0. But we're not factoring in the ocean. And what that empowers us to do is it means that we can make sectors, the wetness of a sector, representative of the planet without worrying that we're going to end up with basically no land. So if I go to navigation, we go to Ningpo, you can see that 78% of its 78% of its surface is covered in water. So that's why we're getting these really, really wet sectors. Here's another really wet sector. This is wet, but it's all frozen instead. And here's another example. So this is actually the archipelago profile. Now, here's a fun thing. If I go down, cool, this has got a volcanic island. That's neat. But if I come down here, you'll see that there's actually a bridge connecting these archipelagos. So how the road network generates is it's going to try and connect, like Hawaii, exactly. It's going to try and connect cities, facilities owned by the planetary owner, in which case unfortunately there's none, and farms. So cities, facilities owned by the planetary owner, and farms. But if it recognizes that there's a single water hex separating 2 road networks, like there is here, it will build a bridge to cross the water. And that, when we have persistent map movement, will now mean that you can you can have your little unit cross the water. Whereas if you want to get to these islands where there's no road, there's no bridge network, you're going to have to figure out, oh, how do I get over there? Now, there might be a way to spend support points to teleport, for example. Representative of Allied Command sending in a dropship to rescue you. But we don't really have that set in stone. Seeker 10,000 says, can you have mission to destroy the bridge? Explicitly, no. Explicitly, no. So the reason why I haven't done that is because I don't trust our map gen to be able to give me a map that is all water except bridge, and then for our scenario generator to to then have the op4 generate on the bridge and not immediately in the ocean. Also, the road network is done dynamically, so if I add a new city here, it's going to add it to the road network. But if I can't remove road network without it breaking the entire network code. So one thing that is coming up is the attack on infrastructure. Here's a cool thing we do. So I said we'd start a new campaign. So let's start a new campaign so I can show you a cool thing that we do. Actually, I'm not going to bother starting a new campaign. So here's a cool thing that you can do. And this is going to be of interest to Knight and anybody else who plays in the really old eras. If you have a contract generate and both defender and attacker are signatories of the Ares conventions during the era in which the years when the Ares conventions were valid, you will not get any cities in your sectors, because cities were explicitly forbidden from being military targets by the Ares conventions. So if you are playing in the Ares conventions and you are working for the Federated Commonwealth and you are you are doing a Black Ops raid on the Capellan Confederation, which can happen under the new contract generation system, you will not be spawning in a sector that has any cities, no matter how populated the planet is, because those are expressly forbidden under the Ares conventions. However, if you are the Star League and you are attacking the Taurian Concordat, who famously never signed the Ares conventions, not Federated Commonwealth, beg your pardon, Federated Suns, thank you, Radar. But if you are the Star League and you are attacking the Taurian Concordat, which famously did not sign the Ares conventions, then all bets are off. You are absolutely going to have cities in your sectors. Similarly, if you are with the Taurian Concordat and you are raiding into Federated Sun space, you yourself will have access to cities in the engagement zone. But this is where the ability to GM add city comes in, because maybe as part of your narrative, you're in the middle of the Ares Conventions era and you want to be able to have urban targets. Well, with just a right click and a left click, you can, just like that. Fox Arrow said it wouldn't be fun, but it would be hilarious if Star League campaign attacking the Taurians getting naked every scenario. Yeah, that wouldn't be fun at all. The young says war crimes are just that easy. But no, I am. So this is. I'll be perfectly honest. This is what I've been working on non-stop since the prototype last weekend. So not weekend just gone, last weekend. The PR went up yesterday. It is over 12,000 lines long in changes, and the removed lines are like a couple of hundred. It is like around about 12,000 lines of brand new code and tests. But I'll be perfectly honest, I am incredibly proud of this. I was working like using algorithms and systems like Dijkstra's so Dijkstra is a variant. It's not a variant on a star pathfinding. It's an algorithm that serves a similar purpose. We're using Dijkstra to basically draw the roads. And yeah, so like these are things that I've never even touched before. I read so much on hydrology of planets and how land masses are formed, and I really am just so proud of what we're getting. But what I wanted to do actually is I want to show you an example. So I'm gonna make this very, very small, and okay, apparently I'm going to make it 4. So we're going to make this tiny. And it's going to tell us, hey, we're going to have to kill some things, and it's broken because it's, yeah, whatever. Oh, sorry, I have to remove them first. That's what I have to do. And this is to stop the GM from accidentally killing things that they really don't want to kill. So let's go and resize. PS359, while I'm faffing around, says that in law, the area's conventions were only legally enforced for a period of time during the Age of War. The Star Legion members rescinded them at the beginning of the Reunification War. They were brought back in an official way during the Third Succession War. So we don't cover their unofficial return, but we do. We are, and to clarify, I was misspeaking earlier when I was saying, oh, that's broken. When I was saying that it was the Federated Commonwealth, that was just me misspeaking. Every time I said the Federated Commonwealth, I actually meant the Federated Sons. So why am I resizing? So I want to show you an example of something that couldn't happen before. So we're making the floor as lava, and I'm going to go over to the briefing room. This is something you could do before, but I'm going to go ahead and add a StratCon scenario. I don't really care. Oh, that's not the scenario I wanted, but actually that should be fine. So we've created a scenario here. It's the middle of lava. So I'm going to go ahead and add some forces. Apparently I have no forces. Let's make ourselves some forces, shall we? There we go. So we're going to go ahead and deploy to the floor is lava. So many able lancers. And we're going to go into this scenario, and I'm going to show you 2 examples. Actually, I can do the second example right now. So let's add an enemy facility. Let's add a mech base, and I'm going to go ahead and attack the mech base. Let's just generate the scenario. That's all good. So first of all, you couldn't get lava at all. We had the hex details for it, but we didn't have any what's the word? We didn't have any map gen. So actually what I want to do here is I want to show another example. So I'm generating 3 scenarios, all using lava, so that I can illustrate to you the new scenario gen code. Because we've adjusted how the hexes influence the scenarios that are spawned, specifically the terrain, not the actual scenarios. So let's add another scenario. There we go. Let's deploy some people. You'll do. Yes, whatever. Okay, so let's start doing these scenarios, and I want you to take a look at the map that's being generated. There we go. So this is a volcano map. And if we spawn into this volcano map, I believe this is the official challenge. But now we are actually using the volcano map theme which you'll see later makes a lot of difference. And we are also now got ourselves a volcano in the middle of the map, an actual legitimate volcano. And so this isn't stuff I've done. All I've done is set up the map generation XML. I didn't touch any of the map generation code yet. But how fucking cool is it to have a random map generate with a goddamn volcano in the middle? And you can see also that just looking at the minimap, the minimap's actually a good example. I bring the minimap into the middle. You can see that the terrain itself is also quite rocky. So we've got multiple peaks to this mountain. So let's come out of here because we don't really care about the actual scenario itself. I'm just wanting to show you map gen. So that was a map that had no road going through it. The next one we're going to have a look. It's the mech base capture. Oh, apparently we hadn't landed on the planet yet. That's why we hadn't. Whoopsie doodles. Okay. So this next one has a facility and it has a road. Does it have a road? It does not have a road, but it has a facility. So we should see a facility type map in lava. SneakyDev says, can we sacrifice our enemies to Armok in it? You can if you have the charge attack. So let's go ahead and just see, is it going to generate us a scenario that looks like it's a lava facility, like a Dr. Evil base? So let's see if we get a nice evil villain lair. And we do. So this is a Caldera. Now, this actually looks purposely made, so I think we might have accidentally got ourselves a player-made map. So let me just scoot out of here and double check. Opencast mine. Yeah, that's a player-owned map. But it is generating volcano maps. That's something at least. We should be able to override that in the scenario gen. So when we pick player-made maps, it's going to try and give you a map that's mostly accurate, but it's not going to be able to do it all the time. Try to see, how do I generate map? Generate, here we go. Yeah, I'm not going to give us a good example, but you're seeing at least that the pre-made maps that are getting picked are appropriate. Strakon Volcano, there we go. Okay, so that this is a city. This is a city. It looks like. No, it's just no volcano. Either way, you get the point. You get the point. The youngster asks, is there any way to link the map to scenario generated instead of the terrain? I'm thinking of prioritizing starports and stuff for dropship defense attacks. I have thought about it. I have definitely thought about it. I don't rightly know how I would like to go about it. So it is something I'm thinking about, but it does require us to rethink how we are generating scenarios. Because right now, when we generate the scenario and then we just pick a random hex, that hasn't already got something in it. But if we went that route where we pick the hex and then it picks the scenario, then we're going to have a very different experience. So here we have a map that is loading. So this is a... Get rid of the report. This is a city in a volcano. And as you can see, if I zoom out far enough, you are getting yourself the lava city experience. Now, something I absolutely plan to do is update how we generate cities, because this nonsense where you have like this over here is like 15 buildings deep, and it's just not that great. King's Mouse says feels more like a volcano in a city. Yeah, sorry, that's what I mean. So yeah, this how we generate cities absolutely needs to be looked at, because we can't be having situations where if you wanted to get from this hex to this hex up there, you've got to go through like 15 buildings. And when we generate our where turrets go, you could just as easily have a turret spawn right in the middle of these 15 odd thick buildings. That turret is never going to participate in fighting. You're never going to be able to get to that turret, and it just creates a very slow, very tedious experience that I really want to address. And the first thing I want to address is by making it so that our city gen generally only spawns with one building thick blocks. King Mal says, yeah, current mega city generation is pretty painfully dense. Yes. King Secret Advance says, I think that happened in Doc's last stream. It happened in my last stream as well, actually. So yeah, it happens a lot, and it just doesn't create fun experiences. So what I want it to do, I want to update our scenario gen map so that maps are spawning, hopefully, just one building deep. So you're having lots and lots of roads, lots and lots of blind spots, but not having these huge blocks of just dense building terrain that basically it just creates areas where where you just can't play. Like this doesn't say, hey, this is a fun city to explore. This tells me, hey, look at all these places you can't go. And it also limits the effectiveness of jump jets as well. You might think, hey, Illiani, but you could just jump from building to building. And yes, that is actually strictly true. But here's the thing. If you only needed to jump from over one thickness of buildings, suddenly your tactical options have just exploded, because now you can actually ambush enemy units. Enemy units can now ambush you. You can just Kool-Aid Man through a building block to create a road to the other side. And this is what I kind of want to encourage. I want urban fighting to feel close and claustrophobic, but I also want it to create new and interesting strategic opportunities. So yeah, like, and it's, there you have it. This is what I've been working on, and I hope you all like the look of it, because I certainly do. Well, that burned an hour and a half. Now what do we do for the rest of the stream? But yeah, so I think one big map is definitely something we can look into. I also think that adding a campaign option to adjust how many facilities can affect a scenario at once is also an option. There is one issue with the move to facilities only being able to affect one scenario per week. One facility being able to affect one scenario. The reason why that's added is because we added the limitation so that a single facility can only affect one scenario per week. And if we removed the ability, if we unrestricted the ability for multiple facilities to affect the same scenario, what that effectively means is if you've got multiple facilities on the map, you can just skip a single scenario and then suddenly skip all of the facility modifiers for the week. Now, you could do that before, but the limiter was if you had multiple enemy facilities, you were going to have to skip multiple scenarios to skip them all. It is something to think about, something for me to consider. But yeah, one big map, that's definitely something we can do. I am going to step away from the computer very, very briefly, so I will be back very soon. Don't go anywhere, and then we're going to try and figure out what the bloody hell we're going to do for the rest of the stream. Enjoy, pipes. And I am back. Hello, everybody. Grabbed myself some water, and then sat staring into space. I desperately tried to figure out what on earth we were going to do for the rest of the stream. We still have a chunk of time left, so I think what we're going to probably do is something that has been largely neglected while everybody has been super busy on the really big projects, and that is just going through the issue queue and seeing if there's anything we can get out. So one of the ones that came in today is actually something that I've been wanting to look into for a while, and that is just to verify in my own mind exactly how we handle working out the global battle value to make sure that we are only including forces that can actually deploy to the scenario. Now, I would like to think that we don't include dropships when we're working out average battle value. However, bet we do. So let's go ahead and check. It's going to be on the seedless, because the seedless is specifically what we're referring to here. Hey, Arstrazi, glad you could join us. Unfortunately, you missed the show and tell for the new StratCon stuff. If you catch the VOD after the stream, there's about an hour and a half of me blabbering away showing off the new StratCon sector generation stuff that I've been working on. It's very cool, if you ask me. So we're not using any seed forces, so let's go down here. And let's see. So it looks like I just completely neglected to verify that the formation can spawn in the scenario we're generating. Whoopsie doodles. So we want the scenario. I know we've got a I know we have a way to verify that a force can deploy. But what I'm trying to remember is exactly how we get that. Can deploy. Can deploy. Perfect. Okay. So we're getting the formation and we're getting its total battle value. What we're going to do. How do I want to do this? I guess, or unit in formation, get units as units, campaign, get all. Get force. Okay, let's go about this a different way. Formation, get units. Because the problem is, this all assumes that I can get I know what formation the unit's from. Not formation, what force, for when you're splitting the campaign, which isn't how this is set up. Do I need campaign here? Maybe not. Maybe not. Yes, I will. Okay, but I can get player force. So we're going to say force. What does player force return? Because I'm still getting used to how this all works. So player force. Player force. Come on. Oh, it needs to be a local hanger. There we go. We changed a lot of class names recently, and I'm still getting used to the new naming scheme. Or unit and units. Can the unit deploy? That's always a good question. If the unit can deploy, and we're deploying to what? So we need the unit, we need campaign. Not entirely sure what we need campaign for this. Oh god, this is some... This method is not doing what I want it to do. That's just some old ATB nonsense. This could work. This could work. I'm on the wrong screen. Oh, I apologize, everybody. Thank you. Can deploy forces vector formations. Determines whether a list of forces eligible to deploy to the scenario. But I don't want to include an entire fucking... Oh, this isn't even doing what I want it to do anyway. Oh, bloody blazes. All this old fucking ATB crap littering the codebase. And I am required to point out that like ATB has done a lot for the project over the years. We have just definitely moved beyond. Can survive? Whereas ATB getting in the way of everything. Yeah, and it's like ATB isn't. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, I can just use these. So we need some booleans. Boolean is space. And is low atmosphere. Get scenario types, not what we're looking for. Get a map. Board type. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Get board type. Apparently space isn't a valid board type. What is then? I should have taken a note of what it was. T ground. Let's just jump there. T space is what we're looking for. Okay. The young says, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but sometimes those giants are ugly as hell. Yeah. No point in us validating the board type multiple times. So we're just going to fetch it once and then pass it into all of these conditionals. If is space, else if is low atmosphere. Else. We don't need to verify it's ground. We're just going to assume if it's not atmosphere and space, it's ground. If unit is doomed in space. It's not. Of course, I need to get the fucking entity. Entity. Of course, unit get entity. We have then have to check that the entity isn't null, because if it's null, it's going to break things. Really, it should be. Yeah, why on earth isn't that flagged as nullable? Come over here. That's nullable. Okay, if entity isn't null, we need to test, is entity doomed in space? Entity is doomed. Oh, it's just, okay. Doomed in space. Boolean is formation valid equals false. No, we'll assume valid until I'm told otherwise. So what this break does, it just says stop bothering to go through the rest of the loop. So just to summarize what we're doing here is we're double checking, hey, are all the units in this formation actually able to deploy to the scenario that we're about to spawn? Because if they're not, then there's not really any point in doing this. Create ourselves a new method. We'll call it is doomed. And if it's a valid formation, only then add the battle value. Doomed, doomed, I say, Radar says. Let's do this. So we're going to go ahead and break this out entirely. And we're going to say get battle value. That seems good enough. Can we get rid of any of these? Nope. So again, the goal here is to go through all of the formations the player has access to, and if we're finding any formations that can't actually deploy, then we're not going to count them when counting the battle value. Calculate the battle value for a given formation within a campaign context, filtering out any no. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Okay. So there's one thing we need to do is we need to fix this, and this is just going to be very simple. Campaign get player force. Why aren't you firing? Oh, we also need to send in the scenario itself. There we go. Okay, so our next stop is the glossary entry. Glossary entry. That's where the glossary entries live. And we should have a seedless. No seed. Oh god, cancel, cancel, cancel. I don't know what I did, but we shouldn't do it. No underscore seed. There we go. And this was actually only added in the newest version. Seed forces were a system used by MekHQ to try and provide scenarios roughly balanced to your campaign. However, as MekHQ has evolved, the system has become less relevant. In modern campaigns, instead of picking a specific seed force, MekHQ will scan all combat teams that are set to the front line or maneuver. Oh, here's a change. We're no longer counting patrols when working out generic battle value. In the front line or maneuver combat roles. For each qualifying formation, MekHQ retrieves the formation's battle value. Usually it's generic battle value. These values are converted into a Gaussian weighted average. This allows MekHQ to tailor some scenarios to your force. This creates a more consistent experience and removes the need to manually track seed forces. Okay. Only formations that Only formations containing units that are valid for the scenario are considered. This means a aerospace, a formation containing aerospace, conventional fighter assets will only be evaluated for ground and low altitude scenarios. For each qualifying formation, MekHQ retrieves the formation's battle value, usually it's blah. These values are converted into a Gaussian weighted average. This allows MekHQ to tailor scenarios to entire forces, creates a more consistent experience, blah, blah, blah. Why Gaussian weighting? Math time. A simple arithmetic mean can be disproportionately influenced by unusually large or unusually small values, common in campaigns where mixed quality lances, ad hoc forces, and partially repaired units coexist. A Gaussian weighted average reduces the impact of such outliers by assigning more weight to values near the center of the distribution. Okay, cool. So that covers us. That covers our brain. Come on. Glossary. It also covers the actual calculation. However, I do feel like we haven't really got any tests for this. So what I'm going to do now, I know some people have opinions when it comes to AI. Get rid of all this stuff. I'm terrible for accidentally selecting the AI menu. I know people have opinions on AI, but when it comes to test writing, the AI is very, very good usually. Write unit tests for, and we're just going to see if it can give us anything worthwhile. It probably won't, to be honest, but I don't want to use Claude because I like to save my Claude credits for when I actually need them. But this is an example where AI is actually helpful, because I know from experience, if we didn't have an easy way to generate unit tests, we just simply don't make the unit tests, and that results in untested code, and it is a no good, very bad situation. You'll probably have noticed, generally speaking, the quality of our code has gone up over the past, I don't know, year or so, and part of that is bloody hell, go away. Oh my god, how many users? 300 users? Whatever. Part of that is our did we really have no tests for this? Surely not. No, we did. Okay, thank fuck for that. For a second, I thought we didn't have any unit tests for our scenario generation, and I was going to be very concerned. Let's see if any of this is actually usable. Actually, it says last place of works went way further than unit tests. Code was written in pairs, and tests were conducted in pairs. As in, like, pairs of people? Like every piece of code needed 2 people to sign off on it. Huh. Actually, I can confirm that is correct, and I don't really have much of value to say to that other than, huh. Well, you're working on like high-end engineering and stuff with a real high consequence to failure. Obviously, only say what you can say within your NDAs. Actually, it says more than just sign off. One person wrote and the other person watched. They'd switch off every so often. Okay. No, if it's a security thing, that actually does make sense. Like, I get that. Oh, I see what I did here. I see why nothing is working. Let's just get rid of that. I think Billy says sounds like normal pair, but we're going. Yeah, no, I've never come across that. I'll be perfectly honest. Yeah, no, that I've not heard that. There's the issue. I wondered why that was not working. There we go. Okay, let's see if our tests... Oh, whoops, one error. What's the error? That's deprecated, that's fine. Let's just see what happens. Getting these tests running. If these all pass, I'll have a quick scan over what we've actually testing to make sure. I have no idea what's set up as an array list, but I guess we're about to find out. How weird. Because we can just use the list instead of adding to specify array list. Whatever. I think, so just talking about, so the next step for the contract overhaul projects, because what I'm trying to do is I'm basically oscillating between like interesting stuff and rote stuff, and the actual generation of the contracts is largely very, very hard work that isn't particularly interesting. And so that's the kind of work I'm doing in one batch, and then I slip over to the more creative stuff, where like the StratCon map generation is a lot more creative, it's a lot more mentally fulfilling, shall we say? And so my next step is to go back to the contract generation stuff and just continue working on that before I I move over to the next stage of StratCon. The next stage of StratCon is going to be focusing on facilities, and I wanna add a bunch of new facilities rather than the usual ones. Like, for example, I really want to have one that takes advantage of the everything passed. Takes advantage of the new turrets that Psycho Monkey added, and I want to see if we can like have a stronghold, which is like a really tough facility with lots and lots of turrets to for you to crack. And also kind of feel like we need, so we got like artillery, mech, vehicle. I kind of want to have a like a VTOL garrison, and then maybe an infantry garrison. I also want to fix the anti-air defenses facility so that it actually stops air stuff from happening, because right now it largely doesn't. Just reading through these. Young says, I would tirelessly advocate for conventional aircraft facilities. Yeah, we can do that. My concern is that conventional aircraft are so incredibly cheap that getting even 5k of conventional aircraft is a lot of bombs and a lot of rockets. And this is very much the you think you do but you don't. We removed largely conventional aircraft from the scenario generation because it was creating horrific situations. If you think it's bad now, imagine for every aerospace fighter you had 5 conventional fighters instead. And that's how it used to be. Like, you'd go into a scenario, and like a ground scenario that's getting attacked by aircraft, and you'd be facing 20 conventional aircraft. Young says, wait, do facilities not just send a set force of 4 anymore? No, it's BV based. It might be set, actually. I don't think it is, though. What am I forgetting? I am forgetting my legal statements, which I always forget. I used to be really good at remembering to update the legal dates, but now I am bad and terribad and awful. I thought it was BV based. It might. Actually, no, it is definitely BV based. Because we changed it to BV based because we wanted to add limiters to the BV allowance given to facility modifiers. That was a general pass early 2025, where we were getting a lot of people complaining about how the facility modifiers were just completely unbalancing scenarios. So we had to go in and add a whole bunch of campaign options to try and limit those. At the same time, we were then getting complaints from people saying that now it was making MekHQ too easy, which meant we had... So if you have a look into the operations side of... Oh, is my computer shooting in the bed? No. Okay. If you have a look at the operations side of campaign options, you'll find there's a whole bunch of campaign options specifically related to random scenario modifiers. Those were all added to try and make everybody happy. The youngster says, and four conventional aircraft would be a nice little spice. 5k BV of them would be like unscrewing the salt cap and pouring it in. Yeah, you're not wrong. Fixed. StratCon seedless generation incorrectly accounting for formations that cannot survive in the scenario. Yeah. I will say it does feel good to get back on small stuff. Seedless generation. Fixaroonie. Reda says, what I wouldn't mind is a dedicated VTOL airbase. Yeah, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking too. What I'm also tempted by, I haven't decided, but what I'm tempted by is to, because right now, the facilities generated are all true random. So there is no waiting. A pirate contract is just as likely to get a data center as it is a mech base. And what I am wondering is, if I'm updating facilities, maybe I could add in a campaign option to include some weighting so that different contract types were more or less likely to generate with certain facilities. I haven't really, in my mind, settled on exactly how that would work. But like, I kind of imagine, like, you know, you're gonna attack some pirates. They probably don't have a data center, but they probably have a field repair base. That makes sense. Terribly sorry. I know I didn't catch the mute button in time. I'm still recovering from my flu last week. Reddit says a naval base / port would also be nice. Diddly. That's an interesting idea, especially now there's a lot more water in StratCon. I wonder, Rooney. Might be able to do something there. And if I'm doing something there, because here's the thing. Facility locations are generated after StratCon sector has been generated. So if I'm going to go to the effort of profiling facilities, maybe I could also add in some algorithms to have facility locations influenced by the map. So maybe if you have a data center, it's more likely to be in, say, the high grounds, like a mountain or something. And we could definitely add like a port and have the port be close to water. That could be interesting. The issue we would have is the problem with a naval base is that it's going to add a whole bunch of wet water vehicles to scenarios that are not going to have any wet water. And then we're dangerously getting close to the concept of just rewriting the scenario modifier system entirely. To be influenced by the terrain the modifier spawns in. Gigantic says, "Is there any dry water?" I'm sure there scientifically is, but no, that's a very good point. And then do I want to just completely rewrite the scenario modifier system entirely? So do I want to do that is a question. And like, if I were to do that, the contract overhaul project, that is the time for me to do it. And there's a lot of ifs here, and I know I'm also on the wrong bloody screen. Let me just flip ourselves over. Like, there's a lot of ifs here, and there's a lot of So just hypothetically, I see Radar's pointing out there's random naval unit show up already. Yeah, but I don't want to really encourage that if I don't have a system to back it up. But here is a thing. Let me just clear my throat 1 second. Here is a thing where, like, phone notification. Oh, it's nobody care. So, if we were, hypothetically speaking, if we were to rework the modifier system, how would we do it? Like, if we were just to say, okay, scenario modifiers, throw them out the window, come up with a brand new system, what would that system look like? Previously, Stratcon Seedless Generation was considering all... Oh, I think my housemate's knocking on the door. 1 second. Hey, so my housemate has just got back with groceries and needs a hand, so I'm going to scurry away. I'll be back in like 5 or 10 minutes. Toodles. I mean, I say toodles, I mean enjoy pipes. Go gadget pipes. And I am back. Hello, everybody. My housemate was returning from their adventures at the local grocery stores, bringing us back culinary delights. We're actually entertaining tonight, so we're going to be ordering in pizza. And I'm secretly hoping that my wife will pick up some wine from the store. But where were we? We were typing up a PR. So, previously, Stratcon Seedless Generation was considering all player combat formations valid, so long as they were, very sing-song today, assigned to combat formations, frontline, and I suppose combat roles, frontline and maneuver. King Miles says, speaking of food, did you ever get that ghost pepper chip? I did not. I actually should remind my wife. Twitch says I need to remind you to get ghost pepper chips for me. It now correctly validates whether the formation can be deployed to the scenario. i.e., we don't factor ground forces into low altitude scenarios. Contrary to the film adaptation of the A-Team, tanks cannot fly. There we go. Oh, we need to have AI assisted because we add some AI tests. Contains AI test. There we go. Radar says, I'm currently attacking a base of operations. Apparently the Drax left only 2 Archer 2Rs to guard the base of turrets. That sounds like the Drax are about to lose their base. Okay, so that's that done. What is next on the agenda? Because we still have like an hour and a half left. We can do a bunch. Jump ships are not getting in temporary crew. Okay, apparently the glossary for temp crew is wrong, so let's go and fix that. It's a 5-second job. Radar says they are considering one archer went down like a bitch. Oh, so yeah, Oh, IntelliJ has silently crashed in the background, so let's restart IntelliJ. Complete and total gyro failure. Very nice. So yeah, I went and said hi to the local BattleTech community. They actually run a regular campaign, which I am very excited in, because I've wanted to be in a BattleTech real life campaign for a very long time. Probably longer than probably longer than how some of you have been playing the game. And so finally getting to I guess tech crew glossary fix. Finally getting to actually to play in a campaign is very, very exciting. I mentioned earlier on stream that I have, in fact, none of my BattleTech minis traveled with us, and I'm very sad about this fact, so I'm needing to rebuy the collection. Completely unrelated, but because we've been streaming for a bit and I'm terrible at remembering, if you are enjoying yourself and you're not already, please consider hitting the follow button so you can be notified of when we go live. We go live Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Those are our live dev streams, like the one you're watching now. And on Friday evenings, we have a massive 5-hour-long stream with the Scotorious Bastards, our very own campaign. We are a Rasselhaig house unit in about 18 months away from the clan invasion. Those 5 years have gone away really, really quickly. So soon, Flash Fried, Odin, Munin, and the lads will be facing off against Clan Wolf and Clan Ghost Bear. And I'm scared. If you are really, 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 really super, super duper enjoying yourself, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Subscriptions are going directly towards getting me a new computer so I have an easier time of developing for you all. If you want to support the channel but don't want to go through Twitch subscriptions or bits or anything else like that, you can donate directly to the PayPal. That's through the !tip chat command. And if you do want to go through Twitch, but you want to get something a bit more than just a subscription, there is a bunch of funky little powers you can get through bits. Including the ability to adopt a character so that you can influence that character's development throughout the campaign, name them, and all that good stuff. This isn't giving me what I want, so we're going to go to glossary entry, and we're going to see if we can find the exact glossary entry. Because the bug report here is basically boils down to that the text for temp cruise isn't quite right. So we need to go and update that. Temporary crews. Well, this isn't right. Someone's not been formatting correctly. Temporary crews were added in version blah. Temporary crews can be enabled for most units. Temporary crews allow for the fulfilling of units to the capacity with unnamed personnel. Each unit that utilizes temporary crew is still required to have at least one named person, meaning it can be found within the personal tab. Large vessels, such as dropships, are the exception to this. They must have at least one named person per crew role, i.e., one pilot, one gunner, one tech, and if appropriate, a hyperspace navigator. This is due to various code and rules reasons, and it is not possible for us to circumvent this without significantly disrupting existing campaigns. Let's fix the formatting here. Actually, it says that's good clarification. It is. I agree. And this basically came about because a user was getting confused about why their large vessels weren't getting crewed correctly. I really, really, really like the glossary. I've done a lot of I have done a lot of changes to the MekHQ code base. Like I don't think that's exactly blowing my own horn. It's very much a statement of fact. I have done a lot of changes. I think the change that makes my life the easiest has been the glossary, because I've said this before, but you can actually track the spread of the glossary, or like specifically how people have come to realize the glossary exists and that it has the answers to their questions, based on the decreasing frequency in which commonly asked questions are asked. The good example that I like to use is how to reload infantry, like field guns. That used to be a question that was asked basically once a week, if not more. Now it comes up maybe once a month. And that's the introduction of the glossary and the tutorial hyperlinks to the bottom of each tab. It's really made a big difference. So now we're going to go into our MekHQ instance, and we're going to double check that the information we're putting into the glossary is in fact correct. Because it'd be really, really stupid if we put the wrong information in the glossary. But no, there's a lot that for a very, very long time in my MekHQ career, if you can call it that. PS359 says reading, shiver. Yeah. I think the BattleTech player base's capacity to read is going to be severely tested with the new core rules. But yeah, so coming back to what I was saying. For a very, very long time, I actually wasn't very happy with what I was producing in MekHQ. And it boils down to auto awards. The system where you kind of get your little awards pop up and off it goes. So I've said this before, but auto awards was basically my first ever programming project of any significance. And I used to half joke that I peaked early, because the impact of auto awards on the MegaMek experience was felt immediate and dramatically. The difference that auto awards, like people who played only recently won't know that before auto awards, which was introduced in 2024. So before 2024, if you wanted to track the awards that your characters were eligible for, you had to actually manually enter information into an external spreadsheet. It was insane. It was terrible, and it just basically largely meant that nobody got awards. And so when auto awards came in, that was an incredible change. And I say incredible as a player. I know for me, it significantly changed how I enjoyed the game. But that kind of created a degree of expectations that every Illiani project, if you want to call it that, would have the same impact as auto awards. And that expectation, even if it wasn't in the player base, it was very much for me, in my mind, I felt pressured that I needed to have each new project be bigger and better and more impactful than the last. And that really did put put a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure. And while the me stepping away from the project for like half of this year was motivated largely by the community's reaction to the AI hit piece that we had, it did very, very much put a lot of pressure on me, and I strongly suspect I was burned out by that point anyway. And now I'm coming back, I'm kind of very much of the mind that I don't need to. Psychotic says the hit piece pissed me off. It did. I thought it was very hurtful, honestly. I'm only really now getting to the point where I can talk about it, and I'll be honest, the hit piece didn't bother me because I have no idea who that person is. I don't give two shits. What upset me was the player base suddenly turning on us. Like there is at least one major BattleTech Discord that won't use MegaMek now any version after 49.7, and one of the reasons was that I started the streaming was because I wanted players to see how we were using AI, and I wanted people to be able to say, okay, like this program is still being made by people who care about it, and that we're not just turning it into an AI slop fest. Like, here is an example of how AI can positively impact a project. Alex Strasser says that pressure was on your side. Oh no, I agree. Psychic says this is a cool salvage screen. Yeah, no, and here's an example. Like, Hammer isn't super keen on me saying this, but like, Hammer paid for all the new art out of his own pocket. And that is an example of just how much we as developers care about the hobby, about the project, and about BattleTech. And having the community react in the way they did so that to what was an obvious hit piece was very, very upsetting. It was very upsetting. And I know at that point when the AI hit piece came out and all that drama started, I was basically waking up at 8 in the morning, and I wasn't going to bed until midnight. And out of maybe like a 2-hour break for dinner, I was working constantly every day. I was effectively doing self-imposed crunch for no pay, just because I absolutely love the game and the hobby. And then coming off of that, and then I decided to step away for a short break for myself, and then I come back because Hammer bat phones me in, and to come back to see players who have been playing the game for a while suddenly just turn on us like a dime, and all of that effort that was being put in, not just by me, but by the entire team, to have that thrown in our faces just because we had the audacity to use a tool that made our lives as developers easier, and so that we could produce the quality of product that players wanted. Psychanic says, speaking of commissions, what would be a good commission to support the dev team? Anything they need art for? That is a Hammer question. We have to be very careful how we take donations. But if you want to commission something, speak to Hammer, see what they say. What was I doing? Glossary. And we are looking at temporary cruise. Okay, that's all reading fine. So let's give ourselves a dropship. Actually, let's give ourselves a warship. I'm going to give ourselves a warship specifically because I know warship uses all the crew types. So we need let's get rid of all this other stuff. We're not really fussed about this other stuff. So let's go ahead and add. We need a hyperspace navigator, a chow. We need a vessel crew member, a chow, a vessel gunner, a chow. And we're probably going to need, well, no, we're definitely going to need a vessel pilot. A chow. Okay, so let's start adding people. Assign person. And let's go to temp. Oh, interesting. So okay, so this looks like it's actually been addressed. So this actually doesn't look like how it used to before. Actually, it says the problem with AI runs much, much deeper than slop. I agree. I agree. I do think that AI has a lot of problems. But I also think that the blanket statement that all AI is bad that is the issue I have when it comes to AI. And it's very easy to say, no, all AI is bad, and anything that is even remotely touched by AI is inherently tainted. And that was the stance that was generally being presented to us during the stuff 6 months ago. And I just find it very, very hard to have a blanket statement on AI when there are things like using AI for medical research. There are things like using AI so that Hammer can contribute to the project in a meaningful way. It's a far more nuanced topic than I think the anti-AI crowd are willing to accept, because it is a lot easier to mentally grasp something if you say all of this thing is bad. Actually, it says the purpose of commercial AI is not to make your life easier. Oh no, I agree. Anybody who's been around from the early days when I first started streaming will know that I strongly believe that commercial AI is just a massive circle jerk. Absolutely. Like the AI tech bros with their multi-billion-dollar investments have such an incredible vested interest in convincing you that AI is the next best thing and is going to revolutionize humankind, and that it is the greatest invention since the internal combustion engine. I do not think that's remotely true. I think AI is a tool like anything else, and in 5 years' time, decades' time, we will have learned how to use it effectively, rather than saying, oh, look at this. This is going to solve everything. King Miles says it's a very nuanced topic, but you also have to be careful about saying the end justifies the means. I agree. I think my problem comes when people try to treat a volunteer fan project as if it is a corporate multi-million-dollar gaming studio. Because it does have to be remembered that everything that's being done on the MegaMek project is being done for free. And yeah, the kind of project that we're putting out is very, very, very good. We have some very talented people on the team. Like, we have a statistician with a doctorate. We actually have multiple doctorates on the team. I am not remotely on the same level as a good chunk of the development team, but we are all doing it effectively for free. And the question I would have is AI harmful? Yes. Does AI have an energy usage problem? Yes. Is the MegaMek project not using AI unit tests going to fix any of that? And I think, yeah, it's a very, very nuanced problem. And I guess my issue comes down, if not with people being against AI. I actually have no issue with people being against AI. What I do have an issue with is people trying to make my life harder as a developer, and by basically saying that the MegaMek team of volunteers, of passionate volunteers, need to be there. We're effectively, if you want to look at it like this, we're effectively just a team of modders for all intents and purposes. We were modders that made our own game. Should we be held to the same standards as a studio that is selling you a product? That is saying that you need to fork over $100 to get access to MegaMek. Weissman says, my biggest problem is the use of data to train without the permission of the original crafter. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree on that with things like writing, art. Oh god, no. AI art in any form, no thank you. Like, yeah, and there's not even room for a conversation on that one. AI code? Well, AI coding has and always will be a collaborative, not AI coding, coding in general has and always will be a collaborative exercise. AI code is just cutting out Stack Overflow. I am aware, before anybody points out, there is a lot more to it than that. But to a degree, programmers have been copying from each other for as long as programming has been a thing. What am I looking for? Dropships. So let's go ahead and assign a pilot. Yeah, it looks like it's been fixed. Okay, well, we just wasted our time. Check the bug before fixing the bug. Psychedelic says, I have an issue with the Starfield Star Wars Overhaul mods because they used voice cloning to change the lines of most characters. Oh, that's gross. Yeah, no, I don't like that. Well, this looks like it is no longer an issue, so let's go and tell the original reporter. Safari. Yeah, I definitely have a fairly hardline stance on AI art, AI writing, AI AI art, and just that whole stuff is just crap, honestly. One of my biggest regrets. Who wants to hear one of my biggest regrets? So I have written a lot of actual tippity-typity creative writing for MekHQ, and this was before a lot of the very sort of prominent AI conversations happened, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake of using Grammarly to like polish up my writing. And why is that my biggest regret? My biggest regret is it means that I spent weeks, the personalities, for example, I spent weeks, if not close to a month, just writing those personality descriptions. And then I used Grammarly to spice them up and in my mind, you know, like an editing pass. And now I have to live with the fact that despite all of the work I put in, that content is now forever tainted by AI, and that there are people who will just outright reject it because I used a tool that at the time I thought was a genuine tool. Because Grammarly has been around for a very, very long time and was an accepted writing tool. And so I was, in my mind, I was just using this normal writing tool. And then now I'm like, well, crap. And to the point, I actually nearly deleted all of the personality stuff. I only brought it back because I basically, because there was an outcry about removing it. I'm very, very lucky to say that we have a couple of people in the community who are now doing a real editing pass of it and kind of like extracting, getting rid of the AI stuff. But yeah, no, that was a real bummer. Like having put all of that work in, and then again in my mind, and it was an ignorant point of view at the time. But in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm just, using a tool that everybody uses, Grammarly. And then obviously that wasn't the case. And it made me very, very sad when I realized what I had done. And of course, this was months and months later, long after the ability to just go back and put in the original stuff that I wrote. I couldn't put it in because it, like, formatting it for MekHQ to be used in the manner it does, that took 2 weeks for that alone of full-time work. And so it just wasn't feasible to go back and redo it. What's wrong with Grammarly? Its editor is an LLM. I believe it's actually straight up ChatGPT. So Grammarly is AI writing now. Oh, I know one somebody asked for. They asked for a flag to be added for trainers. Trainer tag. Okay, this is something I know I can do. Let's go ahead and add a new tag. Trainer tag. Okay, roll that back. Lots of big, heavy topics today. I'd love to talk of regrets and mistakes and things like that, but I don't want to be clear that I'm very, very proud of what I've done with this project. I would go as far as to say it is probably the thing I am most proud of. Actually, says trainers are absolutely golden in 51.1. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad that worked. So what we're doing, we're adding the flag trainer, and this is going to allow this is going to allow players to specify, hey, for training formations, this person's unit should always be the trainer. Because we had a really weird edge case, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up before. Where basically the player had a training formation that was being led by character A, training character B. But the problem was character B outranked character A, and so character B was taking over the training process. And so what we're going to do, we're going to add a trainer flag that basically says, hey, this person is always going to be the trainer. Do I want to do this? Can we do this with existing tools? Okay, that's what we're going to test that. Can we do this with existing tools, and do we just need to make sure the players are aware these tools exist? So the existing tools we do have to be able to specify one of the characters to say they are the formation leader. And I want to see if if we can go ahead and enforce that in a formation that changes. So that's what we're going to do. Another thing I want to do is I also want to put in a limitation on class sizes. This has actually been something that I have been back and forthing on a lot, whether or not we should implement a limitation on how big a training formation can be. And after a lot, and I mean a lot of thinking, I have decided that I probably will implement a limiter so that a trainer can only train a lance level formation. Knight says, what happens if two people with a trainer tag are in the same formation? It would fall back on the old who has the highest rank, and if the ranks match, who is the most skilled. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create ourselves a company, and then we're going to faff around with the toe. So let's just see what we want to do here. But yeah, so I'm thinking that, like, in the Innisphere, for example, a training formation would be a trainer and 3 units. In clans, it'd be a trainer and 4 units. In Comstar, it'd be a trainer and 5 units. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because I have seen in player campaigns where they have an entire battalion being trained by one guy, and it gets to a point where it's just a bit like, really? That's what you're doing? Okay. So let's add a new force, so a training force. And we are going to add Sergeant Zarina and Sergeant Otto. And we're going to say that Sergeant Zarina is the commander. So if I put in Wiggles Okay, but what if I put in Lieutenant Cowicker? Perfect. So let's advance day and make sure it saves. Because if so, then we already have systems in place that can achieve what the player's trying to do. Wrong screen? Oh, thank you guys. Sorry, my brain is so as anybody listening to streams is very well aware, I am transgender and very obviously male to female. Very early in my journey, which is why I still sound masculine. But I ran out of needles for my estrogen, and yeah, my brain's just a little bit all over the place, which is also probably why we're engaging in all these heavy topics today. Topics I usually shy away from. Like, who wants to debate the ethics of AI? Apparently me today. Okay, so that is working as intended. Let us go instead to the glossary, because it suddenly occurs to me I don't know that I updated the glossary. I just looked in the glossary for the glossary entry. No, that's not what I need. I need the training combat teams. Okay, here we go. Training combat teams are essential for improving the skills of your personnel and ensure they remain combat ready. While deployed each Monday, the commander of each formation in a training combat team will attempt to use their training skills to improve the skills of personnel under their command. If the commander is in a multi-crewed unit, all personnel in the unit will contribute their skills to assist. Collectively, these characters and commander are referred to as the formation executioners, educationers. There are some restrictions on what can be taught. Only profession and scouting skills can be taught. New skills cannot be trained, so the character must at least possess the skill before it can be improved. Furthermore, the maximum that a skill can be improved is to regular, or the highest experience milestone an educator has in it, skill -1, whichever is lowest. Okay, let's go to training formations, because I don't know that is correct now. So let us check. Knight says he thought my drill sergeant was an executioner too. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so what's the actual route we take? Okay. So identify the combat team's commander. Okay, done. Then we perform a skill check. Okay, that's correct. Then we get the skills list. That's correct. Click on the unique skills modifications, you get set to avoid duplicates and find the best experience levels available. Okay, so it is experience skill level. So the glossary is no longer correct. Goody. Well, I suppose at least if I'm focusing on writing a glossary entry, I can't accidentally draw myself into more spicy topics. Okay. It's still Monday. PS359 said could possibly add some more consequence for serious failure, like damage to equipment or injured personnel. Maybe. Let's implement. Let's document what we actually have implemented, and then we can think about what other stuff we want to add. Well, one, we're on the wrong screen, but two, I think IntelliJ just crashed. Goody. I also have a forfeit from Psychadic that I need to write a glossary entry for admins. One addition to the glossary on scouting: passengers, like scouting capable infantry, don't make scouting rolls. What do you mean? Extrazi, can you give me a little bit more information there? Because I'm not quite sure what you mean by passengers. Because units that have been that are being transported definitely make scouting checks. Definitely. There we go. And if they don't, they definitely should. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually just going to rewrite the glossary from the ground up. ES359 says, I'm not sure if campaign options includes this. In the NCA war rules and in Stellar Ops, formations that are training use up supplies as if they were in real combat, which can get expensive. Huh. Interesting. Now, campaign options does include training munitions, but it's done for the entire force, not just for training. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, this is all out of date. Goody. I must have forgot to update it. That's okay, we can update it now, together. Actuality says, using only commanders are real rules. Take a transport like an AFE, give the driver scouting, he'll scout. Put an infantry company in the same unit, assign it to transport, no scouting. Let's launch this, let's find this out. Because the transport and the units absolutely should. And so if they're not, we can definitely investigate that. The intention is that transported units will patrol, scout. Sticking a bunch of infantry in a fast-moving unit is like the strat for recon. But we can check it. If I check it and it works, I would recommend opening a issue report with the exact setup that doesn't work. In a report bug save, and then I can definitely have a look. Because what you're reporting out, Strati, is absolutely not how I've seen it work, and not how it's meant to work, which tells me either something's bugged, which is entirely possible, or there's an edge case that is in your campaign that I've not factored in. So we'll see if we can replicate it on stream. If we can replicate it on stream, we'll fix it on stream. It's a damn sight more interesting than writing a glossary entry. But if we can't replicate it on stream, open up a report, use the reporter bug save, because that's going to save a whole bunch of extra stuff. And yeah, I'll take a look at that actually today, because that's not how that's meant to work. But we're going to check. Veteran player preset, I believe, already uses commanders only, but we'll double check. Just gotta remember where it is. Commanders banner. Okay, so commanders only for vehicles and battle armor and infantry. So we've got the same. In theory, we've got the same settings as you. We'll generate ourselves a company. Eric Shards, when you say there's a lot of modifications used in your campaign, do you mean there's a lot of, like, you've actually changed the code, or... Okay, so we've got a company. We're going to go ahead and add a test glance. Someone give me a... Oh, I know what we can use. We want a Maxim, because Maxims are cool. Maxim. Just make sure it's not some weird Maxim that doesn't have... Yeah, okay. So give me one. And we also need some infantry. Let's just go for basic bitch rifle infantry. Foot ballistic rifle, you'll do. Oh, that's what I was gonna do. Yeah, my brain is really fazzy today. Procure all items immediately. Should be good. Do we have anything in transit? No. Okay. Oh, it's muffled, that's why. We're going to give them legendary because I want them to have a bunch of skills. Knight says infantry roll perception, V's roll sensor ops. That's not correct. Yeah, so all units use the same array of skills, but how it differentiates is each individual unit will use the highest scouting skill among the scouting skills in that unit's crew. So you can actually have a slick-ass gunner, a slick-ass driver, and then just have someone in the crew whose job is just scouting. So let's go to our personnel and make sure that our soldiers have scouting skills. They've got swimming. That's not quite helpful. Come on, one of you's got to have scouting skill. Or 0G operations. Not quite what we're looking for. Man, scouting skills are far too uncommon. Yeah, I need to look into why scouting skills are not generating as often as they should. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this person communications. Any will do. And we also have a Maxim. Oh, I mean, the wrong one. You're the unit leader, not that it really matters. We'll give you communications as well. Okay, so we gonna add the units here. Man, my brain is not doing good. Yeah, basically I have to get specialty needles for my medication, and I I haven't had to order any new ones since I moved, and because I've been working through the ones that I had, and now I discovered that I actually didn't have any left when I thought I had a whole bunch. 21 days. Okay. Also, just as an example, this is the kind of reason why we actually like players to send in their campaigns. If you take into account just I'm on IntelliJ, oh my fucking god. If you take into account like how long it's taken just to set up this test, just to see if the bug is quote unquote real or not, replicatable. If the bug's replicatable, it's taken a good while, and that if we had a campaign in hand, we could have just done that. Oh my god! Of course, we immediately get ambushed. But hey, the ambush system works. Okay, let's. Oh, I shouldn't have advanced. Silly me. Okay, we can try again. PS359 says, asked if I programmed the gambling habit. I did, yes. Okay, so our force is returned. So let's deploy. It's test patrol. It's just 2 units, which should give us 2 rolls. Coming over here, we've got 2 rolls. So we're now going to go to the toe, and we're going to assign the foot infantry to a tactical transport. We're going to put them in the infantry compartment of the Maxim. So these are now being transported. And so our next test is, do they still get 2 rolls? Let's go down here. No, we're not going to go down. I'm going to go here. So do they still get 2 rolls? Yes. So Aristrazi, at least insofar as I can confirm, transported units are still getting their scouting checks. Insofar as I can confirm. What I need you to do is go to report a bug and make a save here, because what that save does is it creates a special version of your save that contains all of your custom units. The only thing it doesn't include is your custom academy, which you will need to upload separately. But if you just upload that and describe your issue, I can actually take a look at that today. Because that's something that's really close to my heart. But that looks like it works. So we're going to go back to writing glossaries. And I'm going to change to the right screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, they're a Manticore tank commander? Well, that explains the gambling habit. Okay, so process combat training teams. So that's a formation. Oh, and it specifically says deployed. While deployed to the area of operations, let's specify that it's there. While deployed to the area of operations each Monday, the commander of a this is really word badly worded. A formation assigned to the training combat role. Will attempt to use their training skill to train the other. We need to emphasize other because people keep thinking that they can train themselves. Extra says, yep, did not get scouting roles on my 2 platoons. MekHQ bug section, yes please. And make sure to upload your academies separately. Other units in the formation. First, all personnel in the commander's unit pull their skills. Only skills related to the unit, to the command of the unit the commander is in, will be trained. Additionally, the best, we have one for scouting skills. We do. Do we have scouting skills? For example, a commander in a mech will only train the 2 mech skills. Additionally, alongside the unit's best scouting skill, this is known as the training formations curriculum. What's next? So we work out. Oh, so a new paragraph. It is important to note that a trainer can only train skills to be 1 level below their current level in that skill -1. This includes all relevant modifiers such as SPAs and injuries. So we need to go and double check that it is in fact including injuries. I believe it is. Oh, yeah, so it is including injuries. We'll add a clarification. While all personnel in the commander's unit assist in the training exercises, only the commander uses their training skill to determine the success of the exercises. Okay, so now we've got the skills for the educator. We have infantry gunnery skills as a glossary empty. We do. Good, 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 good. So infantry gunnery skills are the various shooty fighty skills in time of war, and the way they work is actually pretty fun because it essentially, like the scouting skills, it only uses the highest. So you could have in your infantry platoon a character specialized in heavy weapons, but it will still, when it goes to the MegaMek layer, it will still count as small arms. Okay. Perform this game, lit training skill check. I know this isn't the most interesting thing in the world, but it is something that needs to be done, unfortunately. When training takes place on each Monday, the commander will perform their training check, the success of which dictates how much XP each trainee receives in their lowest skill among those featured in the curriculum. God, I hate writing documentation. I especially hate writing documentation on stream, but I won't remember to do this later. Hey Hammer, you're joining us in writing documentation. Yay! Oh, yeah, Hammer's back to work. Gross. Progress is equal to the role's margin of success Interesting. So it doesn't look like we actually include a failure clause anymore. Oh, okay, we do. Margin of success, minimum 1 XP. Failed training skill checks result in no XP being taught for that week. So here's where things get interesting, because this is a new system players haven't experienced before. When you get experience for a training formation, it's not just experience you can spend on whatever, it's pre-spent. All XP earned from training formations is pre-spent on the skill being trained. That means if a character learned 5 XP towards the communications any skill, the cost of improving that skill will go down by 5. If a character ends up with sufficient progress to improve their skill to the next level, they will. And I think largely that's basically it. I don't think players really care about anything else. Training incurs 1 fatigue per person. No. While a training formation is deployed, they will suffer fatigue damage each week. The amount of fatigue gained is equal to the fatigue scale in campaign options. Default 1. And now to add in a clause for the actual person who wanted to raise the issue. Remember, you can right-click on a training formation and specify who commands it. This is useful if the formation commander is of lower rank than one of their trainees. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is, I'm going to include this here because we're going to do it in a minute. Class sizes. Training formations receive a -1 penalty. Receive a penalty for if the class size gets too large. This penalty is applied to the training skill roll. It is equal to the number of students, number of characters, no, units, number of units in the formation, -1. No. Each unit in the formation larger than a lance level formation for the campaign faction, there is a -1 penalty. For example, a 6-unit inner sphere training lance would suffer a -2 penalty on the skill roll. There we go. Okay, so that is the glossary nicely updated. Hooray! Let's go ahead and actually make that penalty. So, got the formation here. Int formation unit count. Actually, we need to do this higher in the data process. Form skill check. So we have int, and we want formation size. And we also need standard lance size. It's going to be campaign, get player unit, clear force, and then we're going to go get faction. Formation base size. Class size modifier. King Miles says this could get a bit complicated for groups like the Taurians. They use 4-unit mech lances but 6-unit tank lances. I'm fine with that. What I will do is I'll just add in the glossary that it's 444. But that's a good point. We'll definitely account for that. For each unit in the formation larger than the training formation size. No. Inner sphere formation, training formations consist of a commander and 3 trainees. Clan training formations consist of a commander and 4 trainees. And lastly, Comstar Word of Blake training formations consist of a commander and 5 trainees. For each trainee over this allowance, there is a -1 penalty. Basically, what this boils down to is we have to add some kind of consistency. It's simply not possible to account for the insane variety of BattleTech formations. We do though. Generally, inner sphere training comment. Yeah, we'll just go for generally. Some factions, such as the Marians, break this trend. There is no differentiation between types of unit, even for factions that normally field more vehicles in a lance than they would mechs. This is largely due to code restrictions. There we go. That covers people trying to be smart. We've got about 15 minutes left on stream. And there we go. So that is all handy dandy, didgeridoo. Let us just make sure we haven't got any errors here. Got some deprecation I don't need to worry about just yet. So let's run our tests to make sure it's not breaking a whole bunch of tests. But yeah, it's worth mentioning that these are not for your standard lances. These are just for training formations. And really it's to stop players from being silly billies and putting entire regiments in a single training formation. And one of the good things is because it's a malice, you can absolutely mitigate the penalty by having higher skilled trainers, which I think is a good move. It just means that, like, even if you have your legendary trainer, they're not going to be as effective with a larger class. And I think that makes sense, honestly. My wife has informed me that ghost chips will be here on Wednesday. They had to order them because we couldn't get them local. What do you... Okay, I should confess, I actually have no idea what these ghost chip things are. So, if you guys are about to kill me, you should probably warn me. Yeah, ghost pepper chips. I failed a one of the things that we have is a Comstar interdiction, which bans me from saying a certain word for 5 minutes or so. And I accidentally failed, and that means I have to do a forfeit. And yeah, so the forfeit the psychiatric chose for me is that I have to eat a ghost pepper chip. And I don't like spicy food. So I'm going to have a glass of milk on standby because I suspect I'm going to need it. Hammer says the fire started from my mouth. Pathstrider says, no, poor baby. Yeah, I'm about to suffer, I suspect. All this for 100 bits. Fast Drive says, I don't think the chips will kill you. I mean, I'd like to think not, but I do think I'm going to suffer. Bison says, I'll just wish for it. Oh, here's a fun thing. So, like, there are certain things that players do, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And I don't bother, like, quote-unquote, fixing the loophole, because I just don't think it's worth fixing. One thing that players have learned how to do is, there's one player in particular on the official MegaMek Discord. They train up their dropship crews by buying a space station, and then just using that to train as many people as possible. And I gotta say, training formations made up of warships wasn't on my bingo card. But I guess makes sense. I mean, it requires you to have a dropship. Oh no, sorry, that's what they were doing. They had multiple space stations, and because that has the largest crew count, so they basically jammed everybody in these space stations and just made a factory to produce large vessel crew. Apparently I need orange juice or lemonade. Okay, I'll make a note of this. Oh, Weissman says that the ghost peppers were developed just 90 minutes from them. That's cool. But yeah, as we are drawing to the end of the stream, I'm basically just waiting for these tests to pass and then we'll open up a PR. If you have been having a good time, and despite some of the spiciness of the conversations that apparently I've decided to start today, please consider hitting the follow button so you can be notified of when we go live. If you would also like to support the channel, there's the option of bits. You can adopt a character so that you can control their future in the Scrotorious Bastards campaign. There's also the ability to subscribe, should you wish. And lastly, if you want to support without directly going through Twitch, there's also the option to tip. None of these systems are a requirement. You're not required to put money down to enjoy this stream. But if you do, I do appreciate it. All funds are going directly towards getting me a new computer so that I have an easier time of developing and producing good quality content for you all. We're going to head over to Safari and we're going to go and push this PR. And then I am going to get back into the Stratcon mines and put the final finishing touches to the PR I was showing you guys off earlier, where we are completely rewriting how Stratcon generates sectors. I'm very excited for that. I never actually mentioned to you guys what's next. So next is going to be facilities, but later down the line, I'm actually going to be wanting to do some weather modeling. And I'm really excited to do weather modeling. I've been reading loads and loads on weather patterns, and I think I can... King Miles says, to be fair, you could fit a decent number of classrooms and some larger non-classroom training facilities inside a space station. I agree. I think it's a really fun thing. I did roll my eyes a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, nah, that's how to do it. But yeah, so I wanna model weather patterns in MegaMek at an abstract level, of course, so that weather becomes a predictable thing within the Stratcon sector. Not going to impact much for your normal Stratcon, but once we bring in persistent movement, that's going to be really useful, because maybe you don't want to advance when there's a tornado in the next hex. Glossary entry for training formations has fallen out of date. Now it's in date again. I also took the opportunity to add class size limitations. So players would stop putting an entire battalion on the shoulders of a single trainer. There we go. And we should go back to the original PR and just advise the user. There we go. So yeah, I think at this point we have finished our 4-hour stream. I am going to go take myself a little snack, and then I am going to dive back into the StratCon mines. I have got a massive PR to write the description for. It's not this one. Here we are. So this is the StratCon generation method, and as you can see in the top right, it is basically 13,000 lines of basically new code. It's very scary. I'm very concerned. So, but yeah, thank you all for joining us. I do apologize that some of the topics got a bit heavier than normal. But you know, sometimes that can be refreshing. I'll be back on my medication tonight. I've got the needles arriving later, but so I should be back to normal. But yeah, thank you for everybody who came out, and I will certainly catch you all tomorrow. Until then, may all your hits be crits. Good night, everybody. Toodles.